What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about behind the edge thickness with different blades. I have the Spyderco Domino Ontario Rat number 1 in D2, and this is a kitchen knife that I made. It's like a small Kiritsuki, I guess I would call it, octagonal handle. It's made out of 01 tool steel, hardened to like 60, somewhere between 60 and 62 HRC. I have the calipers here. We're going to talk about so I follow Triple B, Big Brown Bear, on YouTube. Anybody that's watching this probably already knows who he is, just because he's like the Yoda of blade steels, and he's doing a lot for the knife community. Anybody who knows what a super steel is probably knows who Brown Bear is, Big Brown Bear is, because he's doing everything you think you wouldn't do with a knife. He's bringing edge geometry to new limits, edge thickness, behind the edge thickness to new limits, and I wanted to talk about that for a little bit. So I measured the Domino in a past video. This edge was I think it was an 18.5 degree bevel on the Hapstone K1, and it measured at like 10 thousandths behind the edge. Ontario Rat number 1, I just measured today. It's a 19 degree bevel, and at the very base, this is a partially, like, I reground the blade, but I didn't concentrate so much on the edge. I kind of brought the middle of the blade a little thinner and then went to the edge. The thickness of the steel is the same, that didn't change. But I was learning how to grind, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up or not, but at the back or at the heel of the blade, I have like a divot right here where the belt grinder, I have a 2x72 belt grinder, where it went a little bit deeper in this channel where the original grind line is on the Rat 1, and right here, if this will pick it up, let's see if I can get it to pick it up. It is at like 10 thousandths behind the edge. Trying to get it to focus, but either way, you can probably see at the edge, see how the edge is a little bit thinner right here, the height of the actual edge grind, where it was sharpened. The height of the bevel is smaller at the heel than it is on the rest of the blade. Because of that little divot at the back here, I have like a 10 thousandths edge at the heel. The rest of the blade is between 18 and 25 thousandths from just past the heel to the tip. The tip from, like, let's say the last third of the blade to the tip is the thickest part, which normally that's how blades are. The tips are usually a little thicker. This 01 tool steel kitchen knife measures, actually I'll measure it now because I can't remember, 18, and let's measure the tip. $12 thousandths at the tip. So I did the taper that I did on this blade, on the kitchen knife, I made the tip really skinny on purpose, because when I use it in the kitchen, I like to use the tip for draw cuts, and this is a pretty flat. There's a little bit of a a curve to the blade, but for the most part it's a pretty straight line. There's just a little bit of a curve here, and then the back I brought up just a hair. So when it contacts a cutting board, about 2/3 of it, from let's say here to here, so here to here, are contacting the board at the same time. Tip is by itself, and then just the back portion is it'll contact by itself, just so I have a little bit of rocking. But I did want to keep the tip curve by itself so that I can do, pull cuts through. Also, I don't know if the camera I think is picking that up. You can see the patina on the blade, so you can see the discoloration here all the way through. You could tell I used that more than the rest. So back to edge thickness. Edge thickness is basically what determines how slicey your knife is. If you look at like a straight razor that is 5/1000ths behind the edge on like a really thin hollow ground or extra hollow ground razor, I mean, that thing will go through tissue paper when it's sharp. Knives will go through tissue paper and paper towel too, but the thinner they are, the easier they'll do that. The thicker, and this is behind the edge we're talking about. We're not talking about the thickness of the steel, because the thickness of this Rat 1 and this Domino, I believe, are the same, and I'll double check right now. It's 0.11 or 110 thousandths, and the Rat number 1 is 0.105 or 105 thousandths, but I'm not really sure what the stock thickness is on the Rat 1. I want to say it might be like 130 thousandths. So I reground this though, you have to remember, and I probably did take a little bit off at the top, but most of my grinding was toward the bottom and the middle of the blade. And then this knife is 120 thousandths. So my kitchen knife is actually the thickest in this portion, toward the tip obviously. It's a distal taper, so it's going to be thinner, but this is the thickest blade, but it's the thinnest at the edge, or comparable to, I guess the Domino would be the thinnest, if it's I think like 10 thousandths. But yeah, 12 thousandths at the tip. And I think didn't I say like 18 back then? Yeah, like 18, 17, right in there. So the Domino's a little bit thinner, but the kitchen knife and the Domino are both slicey as hell. Once you get down to like that 10,000th mark, or right around there, how well the knife cuts, it's like night and day. A 20,000th edge, or 25,000th when you get in like the Paramilitary 2 or like the Para 3, that's what they usually come around, like 20 to 25 thousandths. I mean, this Domino, in terms of like sliciness, so to speak, that Domino will blow the Para 2 out of the water. But there's different reasons to have a thin edge. There's different reasons to have a thicker edge. Triple B basically says learn how to use the knife correctly. If you have a thin behind the edge thickness on your knife, well, it's meant for certain things. You're not gonna stick it into a stump of a tree and start twisting at the tip. You know, I mean, it's just stupid. You don't do that to a knife. If you want to do, you know, if you want to abuse your knives, abuse them, but don't complain later that it's, you know, the knife company's fault. I did this to my Rat 1 because it's a cheap knife. It can be replaced easily. You know, it's still being produced. And I wanted to try a regrind because it was like 30, I think it was 30 thousandths when I started. And just that, you know, bringing it down halfway in thickness or close to, you know, even just knocking down 10 thousandths off or a third of the thickness, it makes a huge difference. And this knife, I don't abuse it, but I'm not good to it either. I treat this Domino a hell of a lot better because it's a nicer knife in my opinion. The Rat number 1, I've taken the tip and I've opened up like shellac containers or like paint containers. You know, you probably shouldn't do that with your knife. I would say that that's borderline abuse, but I'm sure all of us have done stuff we shouldn't with our knives. But this knife, there's no way in hell I would do that too, because chances are at like a 60, 61, 62 HRC with 01 tool steel, I'm probably going to break this tip off. It's not meant for that. It's a kitchen knife. Same with the Domino, you know. The Rat 1, it's a $40 tool, and I'm willing to, you know, to take the risk. And if it happens, it happens. But, you know, it's night and day with the other two knives here. So I just wanted to give a quick spiel about edge thickness, and I don't think the knife community talks about it a lot. They do, you know, the guys that I watch on YouTube do, like Nero Knives, Triple B, In the Pocket, Kenny from In the Pocket. Those guys all talk about it, Banner 24/7, because it's important to them. And Super Steel Steve also talks about it. He talks about HRC all the time too, and how Rockwell is really important, and I totally agree. But it's not the only, you know, edge thickness is not like the be-all end-all of a knife. There's other components to it that matter, and I want that to be taken away from this video. I'm not just talking about edge thickness behind the edge because like that's, you know, the only thing that's important to a knife. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you see one knife cutting performance is you know, blowing another knife out of the water, chances are it's going to be thinner behind the edge if the other variables match, where you know, they're similar steels and they're sharp and really you know, like to a similar grit, and you have you know, apples to apples. If we're comparing apples and oranges, then obviously it won't be the same, but if you take apples to apples knives and have two different behind the edge thicknesses and compare them, you're gonna have more fun with the thinner knife 9 times out of 10 in cutting applications. If you're beating the shit out of your knife and twisting it and prying with it, well, you know, you're probably not gonna have fun because it's gonna break if it's a thin, you know, behind the edge knife. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring light to this and talk about it a little bit. Hope I didn't bore you. If you're still, you know, stuck around, give a thumbs up if you like it. If not, give a thumbs down, but let me know why. And if you subscribe, that'd be awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.